Welcome to Journeys of Empowerment. I'm Michiel Suchitrait. This is a place where we slow the pace and make room for conversations that reach beneath what we do into who we are becoming. Together with aspiring, impact-driven female founders, we explore the turning points, the inner shifts, and the moments that quietly change the direction of a life. Sometimes carrying everything alone stops feeling like strength, and something deeper begins asking to be trusted instead. If that's where life happens to meet you today, you're in good company. What happens when the role you've worked so hard to earn no longer tells the whole story of who you are? Maybe the greatest transition in our careers isn't reaching the next level, but rediscovering ourselves beyond the labels we've carried for so long. In this episode, I sat down with Lisa Thompson, founder of Your Career Space and creator of Career Story Nights, and someone who reminds us that behind every career is a deeply human story waiting to be heard. We explored what it means to reclaim your identity when achievement is no longer enough, the subtle ways ageism can shape confidence and belonging, and why entrepreneurship often becomes one of our greatest teachers. We also talked about the healing power of storytelling, how sharing our lived experiences creates connection, and how an unexpected head injury became the turning point that gave birth to Career Story Nights. In Lisa's own words, the career is the thing that we do, but the story is the journey. And I'll be carrying this one for a while. When we connected the story, we reconnected ourselves. Listening to Lisa reminded me perhaps we're not just building a career, maybe even ever. We're slowly uncovering the person who we're becoming through every chapter, every setback, every new beginning. Let's dive into it. Lisa, welcome to Journeys of Empowerment.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, actually. Yeah.
Great. Lisa, we are following each other already for quite some time, right?
Yes.
Via LinkedIn.
Yes.
And then I think somewhere end of March we saw each other. We bumped into each other at the Professional Women's Network event at Van Landschot Kempen.
That's correct.
And there we knew, okay, we have to go in a deep dive in Journeys of Empowerment podcast.
Yes.
So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
What we always like to do is first envisioning a little bit the future before we go into the whole journey and where it all started, and trying to envision the future, the most foreseeable future, and with the question, who do you aspire to become?
Who do I aspire to become? Well, I guess that the question of who do you aspire to become gives the sense that I'm not that already.
Oh.
Right? That could be the thought that I am not it already. I think that I don't aspire to become someone else. I aspire to be a better version of myself over and over again. And maybe that sounds a little bit textbook, but it is that the whole philosophy that we read so much of being founders and entrepreneurs is that the only person you can ever compare yourself to is yourself. Because once you start to look outside of yourself, then that's where all the fear and all the doubt and everything creeps in. So just being a better version of me. Yeah. I mean, and of course, on the other side of that is then the material things or the work things and all of that I have very clear goals about. But the who I aspire to be is me evolved.
Evolved.
Yeah.
And when you say better, what for you means better?
I think, well, I would say, given what we talked about pre-recording, being mindful, I think that's a huge thing. That, and I talk about this a lot in my work, that I believe the biggest self-development that we can actually go on is actually being a founder, because it's you and you. It's you and you. Like, you're not in a team, you're not with a group of people, you're not in a company, it's you. And I believe that I've had the biggest self-development journey since being self-employed, because it is me. It is me and me. Yeah.
Yeah, and coming from a big global sports brand.
Yes.
And then
yes.
you yourself and you running the show, that's a big, life-changing event, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Let's start with here and the now.
Sure.
So, what are you doing right now?
What am I doing right now? So I have a company. My company is called Your Career Space. And about a year ago, actually, 2 years ago, I have a concept within Your Career Space. It's called Career Story Nights. And that's my life storytelling. And I think that's why we've connected on LinkedIn. That's my life storytelling part of the business. And so Your Career Space started, and I have to think about this. I have to cast my mind back. I launched it in December 2023. I was part of the accelerator program, and I launched it in December 2023. Right when I was in the program, I thought, I'm just going to do it, and I'm just going to launch my company. And I have a really clear vision as to what I want to do, why I want to do it, who I want to help. And I just went all in and launched the company. And then from that, I upskilled, if you like. I'm part of, there's a business group that I'm part of, which is really amazing. I have a really amazing business coach. And within that program and within that group, I've really been able to evolve certain parts of my business, like creating the foundations, creating the frameworks, creating the models, because I didn't ever want to just be someone that was just working for myself and that was it. I wanted to build a company, and I am building a company that will scale beyond it being just me. And so that's what I've been really busy with the last couple of years, is creating those foundations of the business, the frameworks, the models, the methods, all of that. And it's something, that part of the business is something I absolutely love, actually, which, that gives me so much energy.
You can see, obviously.
Yeah, I love it.
And you love it. And you mentioned that you had that there's a clear why behind it.
Yes.
Can you share the why behind what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. So as you talked about, I always worked for big brands. I worked for Gap, I worked for Selfridges, Burberry and Nike, all pretty big names. And I was such a corporate girl. I was like, I am the corporate person, living the corporate dream, getting new roles, getting promoted, traveling the world, doing all the things, moving. I moved backwards and forwards to the US twice, lived in New York, lived in Portland, Oregon. And I loved it until I didn't love it, And I think that that's a whole part of identity. And I believe that different people will identify with different parts of their life. It happens actually with a lot of people that go into the armed services, into military. They identify so much, and you're a Marine, right? You identify so much with that work or with that culture or with that method that you don't get to question who you are within that structure. And so when you're in a corporate world, you are yourself in the corporate world, but your opinions and your views and your perspectives are through that lens. And so you observed when I walked in that I had a pair of Adidas shoes in my bag. Yeah. It was like the biggest breakthrough, if you like, of my life.
I can imagine.
When I left Nike.
Ex-Nike and then wearing Adidas.
Yeah, I was like, I can wear Adidas finally, and I can buy Lululemon. This is amazing. But all the brands that I worked for, you had to be the brand ambassador as well. And I loved that, and I was totally up for that. But then that becomes your identity. And then what happened was, once I left that world, that big question loomed of that, who am I without that job title? Who am I without that company? Who am I when someone doesn't introduce me like that or know me as that? Who am I without all of these things around me?
The structures, the brands, the systems, the whole brand values and the whole atmospherics around.
Yes.
Well, especially also Nike, I believe it's such a big global marketing sports brand, and it gives an identity. But who are we without that? With that identity, right?
Exactly, and that's what I realized. And I had been doing that my whole life. It's what I grew up with. And like I said, I really think that I was a really good corporate girl, and my first job was with the Gap, and Gap is an American company. So I was very au fait, I don't know what the word is, familiar with American corporate culture and the American system. And when I first joined Nike, when I first joined the Gap, it was all at the time of Stephen Covey and the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and the methods and the methodologies and the frameworks, and that's how we worked. We worked within the company, within all of this, which at the time, this is like the 90s, like showing my age, but this is like the, mid 90s. And that was all of the conversation in the company. And I loved it. I was like this sponge. I was like this young 20-something person that just like sucked it all up and thought, this is brilliant. This is training me. It's educating me. It's making me better. I can see where I want to go. I can see a future. I love the brand. I love the company. I love what they stand for. This is it. I was like, this is like totally drinking the Kool-Aid of corporate life. And that's what I did.
And now circling back to the question,
yes.
is all that said,
yes,
why are you doing what you're doing?
Because if I lost myself unaware at the time around my identity and who I am, then I know that I'm not the only person. And I for sure know that I'm not the only person with all the people that I've worked with over the last couple of years and talking to them about their careers, their positioning, their identity. I have to say, the job market right now is brutal. And and that could be a whole other podcast actually, talking about the job market and talking about the people that I work with, the hoops they have to jump through, the things that they have to do to even get an interview, once they get an interview, and what it does to somebody, what it does to someone's self-confidence, their self-esteem, their motivation. So I knew back then that I was lost of who am I? How do I talk about myself after being in this world for so long? So I knew that if I had that, then other people would too. And my first point was actually that I wanted to do it specifically for mid-career women. And mid-career is actually only, and you'll probably go, oh my goodness, mid-career is the ages of 34 to 44. Because if we start working at 20 and there's like a decade, then another decade, and mid-career is that really pivotal time. And unfortunately, at that mid-career point is when a lot of women step out of the workplace for family life, for other reasons, and then trying to re-enter is not always easy. And so I left at the top of that mid-career point, if you like, and I know that, oh my goodness, like I'm in my mid-40s. I have so much more to give. I could work another 30, 40 years. I love working. It's in my blood, right? It's who I am. I love working. And I thought, if I know that I still have so much more to give and to do, then I know that other women do as well. So my pitch on the night of like the end of the accelerator, that's what it was about. It was about mid-career women. And then when I launched my company, I then had men come to me and say, do you only work with women? Why do you only work with women? And then I realized, actually, this isn't a gender problem. This is a human problem. This affects this thing of professional identity. It affects more than women. It affects everybody, and at different stages.
So how much is ageism involved in this challenge?
Ageism was a really, really big piece of it. Ageism was a really, really big piece of it, because in the corporate worlds that I came from, there is a favouring of the youth. Like, let's be honest, like we love Gen Z, who doesn't? But there is a favouring in particular environments of youthfulness. And I hear it now. I hear it now with clients that I have that are in their 40s or in their 50s. And it's the line of, you're too experienced. That basically means you're too old.
Yeah.
And so it's really like a hot topic for me, because I experienced it and I know other people experience it. But it works on both sides. You then have, the generation in their 20s that then have the opposite of, you don't have enough experience, you don't have enough life experience. give me a break, give me a job, and then I will have it, you know? Mm-hmm. So it's this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy that we can't quite get that right, what we want the workforce to be. But the workforce is aging because we are living longer.
Yes.
So this kind of model of
5 generations at the workplace at this moment.
Exactly. And this model of that you're going to be done by the time that you're in your mid-60s, that's an outdated model.
It is.
And that's the thing is, what do we do? What do we do? Because people are living longer, they're working longer, and we can't just write people off.
Now let's share our mutual agreed central theme for today.
Sure.
And then all the way circle all the way back to the earliest years of your life, and then see and then try to help us understand. Okay, but where does that fuel comes from? Because if you have such an amazing career at Nike and everything was working for you, then okay, but why that choice? Why not moving into the next corporate, and it would be safer, right? So that's an interesting, and I do believe there's a lot to find in the your personal journey, which ultimately helped you and nudged you and fueled you to make that bold decision to become an entrepreneur. It wasn't the most logical choice, I think.
It wasn't the most logical choice, and then we talked about this, that when I worked for Nike and I'd moved to the US, and I got my dream job, and I was like, this was it. This is what I set out to do. And it was before the times I was even knowing about manifestation or law of attraction or any of those things that we are like in our daily feeds now. And when I had my very first job at Gap, and all of the leadership team came over I was in London, all of the leadership team came over, and we had these offsites, and Gap would put on the most incredible offsites for the internal team. And I'm like this young 24-year-old and very impressionable. And we go to this conference, and there's the marketing director, and there's the visual merchandising director, and there's the retail people, and they're all presenting. And they're incredible. They're incredible storytellers. They are incredible people, incredibly motivating. And I heard this guy speak, and his presentation, this is a long time ago, right? He didn't present from the stage. He had a screen, he had a presentation, he had all of this imagery, and he had a voiceover. So as we were sat there in the room, it was just his voice in the room. And he was taking us on this journey of being barefoot on the sand and stepping into the ocean, and how that felt, and then what he could hear and what he could see and what he could smell. And he took us on this journey, and this journey then connected to retail and retail experiences. And that's what the Gap wanted to do, was to take people into another dimension, if you like. And I was sat there thinking, oh my goodness, this guy is incredible. When I grow up, I want to be him. I want to do his job. Like, he has got the best job in the whole world. And that was it. It was a thought, and that was it.
Planted a seed. Never thought about that thought ever again.
And then fast forward to the year, 2015, 2016, and I get this job, and I get promoted, and I get offered this role. And then it dawned on me, oh my goodness, that this is the role that I wanted back then when I was 24 years old, and I've got it. And that feeling of not even being aware of manifestation or being aware of that's what I had done, but that's what I had done, that I had set out on this career with this goal in mind, and I got it. But I can't remember your question, why I'm telling you that. Oh, so I got that job. It was the best job, absolutely the best job. And then after 2 years, because I was there on a working visa in the US, and then of course Nike said, can you stay another year? Yes, okay. So I agreed to stay for another year. You renew your visa. After 3 years, they say, can you stay another year? We're going to extend again. Okay, cool. Right. Okay. I'll extend my visa. That's fine. I'm going to stay. And then after 4 years, they said, we want you to stay, but everything is changing. Like, the structure of the company is changing. We're having this reorganization. So the role that you're currently doing is going away, and it's going to be this role. But here's the thing, we need you to localize. We need for you to be a US employee. So I was employed out of Hilversum, up the road from here. So that's where I was. That's where I was out of. That's where my pay came from. And I had watched corporate culture in the US for 4 years, and I saw the fast turn, if you like, and I saw the culture of American hustle and why people don't take vacations, because they don't have the employment laws that we do in Europe. And I just instinctively knew, even though it was more money, I instinctively knew that I didn't want to do it. And it was at the time of Trump's America, and I just thought it's too volatile. It's too volatile for me here, and it's too volatile for me to say yes to a job. And then what? Then 1 minute they change their minds, and what? Now I'm in the US and I've got to leave, and then it's on me to get out. So I said no. And it wasn't even, I guess, there's like really poignant moments in your life where you don't even think, and that's when you just know. It's like just a reaction intuitively. And they said, here's the job, and I said, I don't want it. And they said, think about it, and I said, I don't want it. I don't even have to think about it. I do not want to do that. I want to go back to Europe. And so then I thought to myself, my goodness, I had this dream, I had this goal when I was this little naive 20-something. I've achieved that. I have worked so hard. I have sacrificed a lot personally. I wouldn't necessarily advise or recommend that, but those were the choices I made. And I thought, I am such a hard worker. Why don't I do that for myself? Why am I giving my hard work to all of these corporations for so long? And I was like, I've done it. I've done the corporate thing. I've worked for amazing brands. I have a really good CV. I'm done. I've done it. I've got to where I wanted to get to. This was the job. And it actually was the second to last job. I then got another job at Nike. I worked on football, which was actually very cool. And that's like football, our football, European football.
European football.
Yeah, not soccer. I mean, yes, they call it soccer.
Yes, yeah.
But they called it, So anyway, so I did that job too. And I thought, I'm done. That's it. It's enough. I want to work for myself. I want to see if I can contribute to my business, and I didn't know what my business was going to be at that point, if I can do that for myself that I've been doing for all of these brands for all of these years.
Here we are landing on our central theme for today. And the central theme for today is reclaiming identity beyond achievement. That is exactly at that crossroad you were making that considerate, deliberate decision. Now let's go in a time capsule back all the way to where your life started. And it is interesting. We had, of course, our conversation, our pre-video call.
Yes.
And so the luxury of that is that we had already a conversation and a timeline. And on the timeline, I think there is an important starting point in your life, and it instilled a sort of drivenness, determination, perseverance, resilience, if you will. Maybe start there. What do you believe is, where does your fuel come from?
My fuel comes from my mum, for sure. My mum was like my biggest role model, I would say. My mum was a powerhouse, and she inspired me a lot. She believed in me a lot. She enabled me. Excuse me. And my family structure was, I grew up in a really small town in North Wales in the UK. I know when people say to me, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from North Wales. I don't speak Welsh, I'm afraid. I didn't come from a Welsh-speaking part of Wales. We spoke English. So I am Welsh, but both of my parents are English. And I had this, we had a very typical, I have two sisters, we had a very typical family life. Dad went to work, mum stayed at home, and my mum's mum, what we call, you say grandmother, we call her like your nana, my nan, that's who she is in the UK, that's the name, like of Omar, if you like.
Yeah.
And my mum's mum she was a single parent and bringing up my mum and my mum's two sisters. And my mum also is one of three girls.
That is a rare situation.
Really.
Really rare at those times.
Really, really, really rare situation. And not to go like too much into like my family lineage and all of that good stuff. But at those times, my mum was, bringing up children on your own as a woman in the 50s was kind of unheard of. And so my nana had to be incredibly resourceful to take care of her three daughters. And that's what she did. And she went to work. She worked multiple jobs. She did anything that she could. And she maintained, putting her kids through school, being a good parent, working hard, making money for herself, because God knows where my grandfather ended up, I think with another woman. Anyway, and she worked hard. And that was, I guess it's in my DNA. I guess it's in my blood. It's in who I am, that my mum's mum wanted to as well. People are judgmental. People have an opinion, that there's this single mother in the 50s raising three daughters on her own. And so she maintained her dignity as a woman and the dignity of her children as well, when everyone is talking about, this family structure, because it's completely unheard of in a small town. So it's more amplified, right? Mm-hmm. If you're living in London, maybe it's a little bit different, but in a small town, a small village, like we're in here, it's kind of...
Everybody sees you.
Everybody sees you. And so she was incredibly dignified. And my nana, when I think of her, I think of this very put together woman. And she always had these like beautiful coats, a beautiful handbag and shoes.
Very neat.
Very neat, very put together. And I think that also had a really big impact on me, because I studied fashion design, of just like this silhouette of this woman and how she might not have the most glamorous job, and when she took off the coat, she's probably got a pinny on and she's doing like manual things, but then she puts the coat on and she's this woman again, and maintaining her dignity and keeping it together for her family. And so I didn't witness that, because of course I wasn't born, but that feeling is very much, in our family. And we never spoke about it, because you don't speak about those things. It's not until afterwards that you reflect on it, that you perhaps realise. And so the hard work ethic is... when I meet people now that are not hard workers, I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, cool, not everyone is a hard, that's fine. But I always have been. I always have been, and always have been as well. Never too proud to do anything. Essentially, the jobs, that I would do, and that's what she did. And so she instilled that in my mom. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and then eventually she was able. Let's remember when this was, and bringing up kids of like women not necessarily being able to have their own bank account and all of those sorts of things. And then my mum was an incredible hard worker, and I am too, and so are my sisters. We're just grafters. That's what we call it in the UK.
How do you call it?
A grafter.
Grafter.
Yeah, it means like you're like hard work, and you might be, here in your nice skirt, but you're not afraid to put the gloves on
pull up the sleeves and
get to work. Like, you need something doing, let's do it. Yeah, I'm here for it.
No, but in that you hear also your grandmother through everything, but also through the upbringing via your mother, right?
Yes,
it gets transferred.
Yeah, and this very strong matriarchal line, if you like, in the family structure of my mum's mum, my mum being strong, not in the sense of kind of aggressive strong, but just strong emotionally, strong of life challenges. And my mum had, which ultimately led, you mentioned, my mum passed away. When was that? Well, that was 2014. But I was living in the US at the time. And I mean, we can talk about my mum for sure, what her journey was. But yeah, my mum and my mum's mum, they was just such a big impression on me. And the work ethic for sure.
Work ethic.
Yeah.
It obviously fuels you. And but I can imagine also it comes also with a sort of cost or sort of well, let's say, a sort of responsibility which might be helpful at sometimes and also sometimes not.
Yes.
When is it not helpful?
I think that now, reflecting back, I would say that what I didn't have the skill to do that I would have the skill to do now, because I have the hindsight, is how to maintain a successful career at the level that I did, and maybe have a family. I didn't have a family. So that was a sacrifice, but at the time, you know, like, let's talk, you know, women's biological aging. It's a clock and you're aware of that. And I kept thinking it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And then it gets to the point where it's like, it's not going to happen. And so and not that I made some conscious choice. I have friends, I have girlfriends that specifically decided, I don't want children. This is not for me. That wasn't a conscious choice for me. I wanted children. But I just hadn't met the right person to do that with, and kept thinking, that's going to happen, that's going to happen, that's going to happen. And then it didn't. So that I probably would, in hindsight, do differently, of how to have, and that's what is a lot of the conversation right now, which I'm incredibly happy to see. That conversation that happens right now, how do women have this perceived, you know, when people say having it all, it's not having it all, it's just having a life. You know, it doesn't mean you have it all. If you have a family and you have a career, you have a life like men do. And so I'm really glad that that is a conversation that is happening right now, for women that are at that age, in their 30s, and wanting to have a family, because it wasn't a conversation when I was in my 30s, and it was quietly a choice. It was quietly a choice of, if I was to do that now and to step away, then I would lose my footing on doing this. So I'm just going to stay, because I want this maybe more than I want this. Yeah.
And also, you're very driven.
Yes.
And but that is also, it's about work hard, stay strong, keep going, and never collapse. That's what I got out of our pre-conversation. It's deeply internalized. How is that working for you, and when is that not working for you?
It works for me because now, do you follow? I'm sure you do. You follow Alex Hormozy. So he's a workaholic, right? And I love him. And people then, and I'm like not deflecting, but I like use this as an example. And he has a brilliant social media team, and they ask really brilliant questions. And someone said to him the other day, like, what is a good day? And I don't know if you saw that one, and his thing of like a good day, I got up, I worked out, I did work, I did this, it all connected to his work. And he was like, that is a good day. But that isn't somebody else's good day. That isn't someone else's good day. They're like, you need to have a break. You need to stop working, blah, 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 blah. You're going to run yourself, into the ground. You're going to give yourself a burnout, all of these things. But if you love it, are you? And so that ethic that I have, it does drive me, and it does motivate me, and it does keep me going. And I also recognize when it's hard. And I also am able to almost be like a little bit like out of body, objectively look and think, this is the point of quitting. Like, now it's hard, this is the point of quitting. And so I have it with, with other women that I'm friends with that are entrepreneurs, and they say that, and they talk to me about their business, or they talk to me about what they're doing. And I'm like, this is it. This is the moment. This is the moment. This is why there's not enough female entrepreneurs. This is the point that we want to quit. Don't quit. Don't do it. Like, what we have to think about is what got us to that point of here. So you have all of this intel that will take you into a certain point in your journey, but what got you to this point isn't going to get you to the next point.
You know the book, eh? What got you here won't get you there. Eh?
And so then you have to outsource, so then you have to upskill, or then you have to find other people. You have to find other people in your network, or mentors, or whoever that is, to get you to that next level. Because I think it's all about these like like big, massive, like not steps, like we're walking up the stairs in the house and they're, what are they?
Gradually.
25 centimeter steps. They're like massive steps. And the group that I'm in, the guy that runs it, he has this visual and it's literally a step and then there's another step, and in between those two steps is this whole big mess of squiggly lines. And that visual is so representative of that's what it's like you're in that mess, you're in all of that squiggle, all of that noise, and you're like, I can't do it. But then you want to get to the next step. So that's where it serves me, is being able to do that and being able to recognize in myself that that's what's going on and that's what I want to overcome. And then on the opposite side of that is where it doesn't serve me, is making that choice and probably missing out on some things in my personal life that I'm not doing because I am doing this. And as I've been building my company, which now has been, like two and a half years, alongside, like I said, I have the Career Story Nights part of my company, which is almost like a separate company, but it's together. And that starts to I almost am getting a little bit tired of that now.
Why?
Because I have been in that mode for quite some time. I have been in that mode of like driving, taking the breaks when I need to. I've sort of recently, I've taken like a little bit of a step back from social media for the last 4 weeks. It's really healthy to do so, I have to say. You realize how much of your head is filled with perceived noise, that you pick up when you're reading things.
What made you decide to do that?
I actually think after I did the last edition of Career Story Nights, which was on the 25th of March, I didn't feel like I needed to keep doing or saying more. I was like, okay, we've done this. This was amazing. It was another really incredible event. So many amazing people came. So many amazing people shared their stories. There was such a good feeling in the room. The after effect of Career Story Nights, like when that one night happens, the after effects of it is really important, and it's not something that I chose or I was even aware of. But what happens is that when you have 7 people stand up and share a story, and you have maybe an audience of 50, 60 people, and everybody is so present, because that's the whole concept, is that we're present, we're listening to stories, and there's a different energy. And I look around the room, because I always sit near the storytellers, near the front, near the stage, and I look around the room and pretty much nobody is on their phone. No.
What are you seeing happening?
I see people, I see their body language, I can see the empathy, you can see that sort of like, almost like oh gosh, I'm so glad that person has said that. You can see almost like, the gratitude, the comfort, oh my gosh, I thought it was only me. I thought I was crazy. I thought I was losing time. You just see people feel like, okay, gosh, it's all of us. But that's why I created it, was for that. And then what happens is I have a QR code that people scan at the end, and I build a site in Notion, like a quick site, just a Notion site. Here are the storytellers. Here's how to connect with them. Do you want to be a storyteller? I have a photographer, I have a professional photographer. Here's how you get the photography. Sign up to the newsletter. Fill out the feedback form. And what do you want from another edition? Because people tell me on the night. And then people will write really beautiful things.
Also on LinkedIn or...
So they'll post, sometimes people will post about it on LinkedIn. Sometimes they'll say it in the feedback form. People will DM me on Instagram. They'll DM me on LinkedIn. They'll send me an email. And I want to honour that person is sharing something personal with me. And I don't take it lightly that someone is sharing something with me. And I want to give them the space to share that. I feel like it's the very least I could do, that they come to one of my events and they sit there and they participate, and then that has created a reaction in them, and I want to have that with them. And it's really amazing. And that takes me about 2 weeks. That takes me about 2 weeks to go back through and to check and to answer people and to have an engagement with them and just allow for that to happen.
How many times a year did you schedule this specific event?
So now we've got the next one coming up on July 2nd, and it will be the 9th one. And I launched it on July 3rd, 2024. So since July 3rd, 2024, there has been 8 editions.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's a lot of work. I never imagined myself being in the event business, I have to say. That wasn't something that when I was building my business and building my concept for your career space.
Yeah, some things come to something, you, right?
I mean, and that's the whole story, how that happened, by the way, and I'm happy to share. That came from me having an accident.
Please do.
Yeah. So let me tell you that. So, and then I'd plan one, and then I'd plan another one, but I almost hadn't recovered. And then I thought, you know what? It's not about here's the next one, here's the next one, here's the next one. There has to be. Now I try to do it. There's about 2 months in between, because, like I said, the time of people responding. Yeah. And, the photography and all of that and sharing, that really takes, to give it good time, that takes 2 weeks.
But it needs also breathing space, right? In between.
It needs breathing space. And then we do. And then, and then, like I said, and then the next edition is happening.
Is it already always centered around a certain theme?
Well, so what happened was, in the beginning, it was just career story nights and people could share their story. And then about this time last year, I wanted to have an event, like a venue. I wanted to have a specific venue that I could work with and build a relationship and help build community. And so, what are we now? We're at the end of May. It was a little bit sooner, maybe April last year. I put together a pitch deck and I shared and presented to many people, many places, and Zoku agreed, and that was really nice, and that felt like a really good partnership. And I really like what they do and what they stand for, and they're a B Corp and they're about community. And also humanity, all of it, right. And so it felt very aligned, and all the venues I chose to work with, that I wanted to work with, it was all aligned. And why am I telling you this about Zoku? But that was... why am I telling you that about Zoku?
No, it doesn't matter. It's about the location, but also about how many times per year.
Oh, yeah, so how many times per year. And now it's at the point... Well, there's some a lot of... Which is why when you said why did I not feel the need to be back on LinkedIn so much afterwards, because what I have is, and I talk about this on LinkedIn a couple of times, is I do have these very yin and yang periods of my life. So even though I am a sort of not a workaholic, but I do work a lot, but I also do take a step back where it's not all the work that's the outward facing work, it's all the inner work. And so what I've been doing is putting together and building, how do I now, what's the next iteration? Mm-hmm. Oh, I know what you talked about. I was telling you about Zoku. So once I got Zoku, I then thought I need to do something different, actually. And there was a brilliant woman that I met at an event last summer, and we got together, and she'd worked on some different event concepts, and through a brainstorming, she had suggested it might be interesting to have a specific theme. And I thought, I love that. So that's when I came up with the first one, which was about career pivots, because I pivoted my career. And then I'm thinking, career reinvention, you reinvented yourself. So who are you? And, because people do this thing, which I always say, don't do that. You don't have to do that. Where they'll say, in my previous life, I was this, and now I'm this. And I'm like, no, it's all you. It's all one story. We don't have to compartmentalize these chapters of our life. It's all one story.
Why do you believe people do that?
Because they don't know how to connect it. They don't. So that's the work I do, is how to connect all of these seemingly disparate parts of our lives and our work history and our work identity, how to connect them all into one story. Like that's like really a big central theme of my one-on-one work.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Now let's try to decipher that on your journey. So you've mentioned briefly that you started the whole storytelling.
Yes.
And you mentioned an accident.
Yes.
What is the correlation between that?
So the correlation between that is so I launched my company December 2023 and began the work immediately, put together programs, this is how I'm going to do it, started to work with clients, which was brilliant, did some one-on-one work. And then in April 2024, it was Easter weekend, and I actually made this post about this, which was so funny. I made this post about on LinkedIn this particular weekend, and it was some post about the fact that Easter weekend in the UK is the biggest DIY weekend, because it's when everyone is like, okay, it's Easter, we're sort of this much into the year, we're going to do some home renovations, we're going to do some cleaning, we're going to do the garden, we're going to do whatever. And I'm not sure why I made this post on LinkedIn, but I did. And then I was like, well, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to change my house around. I want to, I also did interior design when I was in the pandemic. I'm going to redo things. I want this new energy. So that's what I set out to do. And at the time, I had this very big TV. And I don't like TVs on walls. I like TVs that you can kind of hide or move away. So
not as the centerpiece of the room.
Exactly, which fine, people love that, that's cool too, but just not for me. So I had this artist easel, and it was specifically made for TVs, by the way, and I bought it when I lived in the US, and it meant that you could wheel it, that you could move it, and So what happened was, I was like, okay, I don't want the TV in that corner anymore. I want to do it there, and I'm going to put the sofa. I can put the sofa under the window now because it's not as cold, it's not winter, so the sofa can go there. And I moved this TV, and underneath the TV was like a little cupboard, and I'd been in and out of this cupboard forever. So I went into this cupboard and forgetting that the TV was above me. So when I stood up, I cracked my head. On the right side, like the most excruciating pain, and it's Easter weekend, and I call the out of office the House Arts Posten. Mm-hmm. Is that the correct name?
The
House Arts.
Oh, Huisartsenpost.
Yeah, House Arts
Yeah.
So I call them
the emergency.
Because I'm like, I can't go to the hospital, but I think I need to go to A&E. I need to go to the emergency room because, oh my God, I was on my own, and I called them, and they got a doctor. You go through like the pre-questions, and then someone came on the phone, and I love Dutch healthcare, and they said, "Did you knock yourself out? Were you unconscious?" And I said, "No." I realised now I should have said yes. And they said, "That's okay, you can wait for your house arts on Tuesday."
No.
And I was like, oh my God. So I just had the most hideous, take some paracetamol, the most hideous headache, right? Headache, neck pain, shoulder pain, it's all here. And I go to my doctor on Tuesday, and they said the same thing. And, take some rest, but don't rest too much, but don't rest too little, anyway.
Kind of fake.
Kind of thing, because you didn't knock yourself unconscious. And one of my girlfriends was like, "You totally should have said you did." I said, "Yes, I realise that now." And then I thought, okay, I'm going to carry on. But I'm going to take a week off, because this is what you do when you're sick. You get the flu when you're an entrepreneur. Okay, I'm just going to, by Friday, I'm going to be better. So I thought, okay, it's Tuesday. By Friday, I'm going to be okay. And by next Monday, we're back at it. However, that didn't really happen. And at the time I had clients, I had quite a full roster of clients, and I would meet them. And what happened, which I didn't realise, is that every single thing that I did was exhausting. I would walk my dog, and I'd have to come home and lie down. I would take a shower, and I'd have to lie on the bed for like 30 minutes. I would go to a meeting, because I had clients with a client, the focus of listening to them, I probably would sleep for like 2 hours afterwards. And because of the presence of being with somebody quite intimately, like how we're sat right now, that's how it is with the one-on-one. And there was a woman who I won't name, but there was a woman I was seeing at that time, and she was telling me the story of how she worked in the thing that she did. And it was incredible, her story. And again, I don't share people's stories, but she's a human rights lawyer, and the reason of why she got into it. And you'd never know. You would never, ever, ever know why this woman does the work that she does. And then when she told me the reason why, I sat there and I literally had to like fight the tears back. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is incredible. This woman is so amazing. I fast forward a couple of days and I'm still in pain and I still can't see properly. Everything hurts. And I go back to the doctor and it's a bright day. Mm-hmm. And, you know, like here, like the window was behind her and I'm like wincing because I can't really look at the light. And she said, "You are not okay." And I said, I know. Like this is now my 5th or 6th time. And she said, "You have to stop. You have to stop working." And I was like, "But I'm self-employed and well, what am I going to do?" And, you know, and I have that. She said, "You're going to be sat here in a year if you don't stop. It's your brain." And I think she said some other stuff that scared me. And I thought, oh God, yeah, actually, this is quite serious. I need to stop. So I walked home and I thought, okay, so now I'm officially declaring myself off work. What do you do when you're off work? Oh, I know, you watch Netflix. Oh no, I can't because I can't watch TV. Okay, I'm going to read. Oh no, I can't because I can't look at a book or read. I know, I'm going to make this thing. No, I literally can't do anything. And I have such FOMO that everybody is out and having fun and living, and I can't do anything. And I'm in a book club at that time, and the book that we're reading is The Moth. And The Moth is a storytelling concept. The Moth was born out of the South in the US. And I thought, okay, I can't read the book, but I could listen to the audio. So I lay on my sofa with my iPhone, because also do not use AirPods, do not have anything in your head. So I lay on the sofa with my phone and I listened to the audiobook. And I listened to other things, and I landed on podcasts, and I listened to something from the Huberman Lab, and I read about, and then I listened to something about the brain and what part of the brain. And I was like, oh my goodness, the part of the brain that I hit, that's where we build empathy. What if I don't have empathy anymore? Oh my goodness. I listened to another story. Oh no, I do have empathy. Okay, it's good.
You still can put yourself in the shoes of others, right?
I've not like knocked that out of me. Okay, this is great. And then I lay there and I thought, what if I was to create something where people shared their career story, thinking about my client? I was like, because her story is incredible and you would never know. Because when you meet her, I'm a human rights lawyer. Cool. But you don't know why she's a human rights lawyer. You don't know why she does what she does, you know. We don't know that. And I thought, this is it. This is what I want to do. So I emailed a few people, clients at the time. I'm putting together, this is now like May time or maybe June. I'm going to put together this storytelling concept and I want to test it. So I invited some clients I was seeing at the time, some friends, and I booked a space at Stories. I bought some wine, I bought some nibbles. We came together. I had printouts of the brain. I had these notes on neuroscience, and I said to people, will you share a story? And then I had these writing prompts, and I think we were 9 people, and we sat around and different people shared a story. And it was the most beautiful thing. And then I said, please don't give me feedback just to make me feel good. Like, give me feedback, what this was for you. And everyone was like, this was incredible. And then it just was intuitive that I just called it Career Story Nights. And that's where it came from. It came from this idea of, we are not just this role and we are not just this identity, and the career is the thing that we do, but the story is the journey. And
couldn't agree more with Journeys of Empowerment.
There
right?
you go. There you go.
Do you have the answer for yourself? Why do you care so much about the stories of others?
I yes, because we make a decision, right? We make a decision. This is you. I'm looking at you. You're this person. You're this guy. I think this about you. Okay, you're in that box. That's you. But that's not. That's just the exterior. That's just the outward facing part of you. And we don't know what's going on. We don't know the stories. We don't know the lives that people have lived, the experiences that they've had, the hardships, the good things. It's inside of everybody. And I want to dispel some of those myths, if you like, and hear from people. And while I love panel talks and I love presentations and all of that, I sometimes think some of the most fascinating conversations I've had have been in the most unconventional places, like Uber drivers.
Unconventional.
Sat next to someone in an airport, you just start talking to them, you hear their story, you have no idea. You're like with an Uber driver, they share a part of their life with you. But it's never the Uber driver that's on stage. Mm-hmm. It's always the VP of whatever, or the name, or the whatever. And so I wanted to create a space where, of course, those roles and things are important, but the everyday person is really important because everyone has got a story. And those are the stories that I want to hear. Because those people that have the great jobs and the titles, they'll always have the platform.
I'm trying to grasp your what you've just shared with us and with me.
Yeah.
And still I'm curious, okay, but what is underneath that all, what you've mentioned? Why do you care so much about it?
Well, I guess that when I think about that, because like I talked about however long ago, that entrepreneurship is the most revealing thing I believe you could ever do, and the most confronting thing you can ever do. And the thing that reveals the most about yourself is the most healing. That there are parts of me, there are parts of stories that maybe aren't quite ready to come out yet or to be shared. Mm-hmm. But I have a lot of stories and a lot of experiences that maybe others don't know. Well, they wouldn't know. Why would they know? And we talked about this yesterday and I say this when people want to be a storyteller, and I say, if you have a story to share and it's something that's emotional, and that's okay. Like some people will share a story and it triggers a response. It might be tears, overwhelming emotion. That's fine. But do it from a healed place, because when we share a story from a place and something is still traumatic, it can traumatize the listener. So let's not scratch the itch and make that worse, but let's talk about it from the healed place. And so some of those stories that are in me are still percolating to be shared. And the chapter of getting to the point of sharing all of that one day will come. But it's almost a little bit too soon, I guess, to share all of that right now.
You've mentioned healed.
Yeah.
I'm a traumatologist.
Right.
So postgraduate trauma stress studies from Bessel van der Kolk, the author of the book
Yes.
The Body Keeps a Score.
Yes, nice.
There's my certificate. Up
Okay.
there.
Yeah, I know The Body Keeps a Score.
And what I already intuitively felt that I understood became much more clear going through the whole 34 weeks of deep dive into trauma.
Yes.
And systems, processes, frameworks, methodologies.
Yes.
And is that intuitively, for me, I don't believe in healed.
No, because you're never done.
And I really believe in fundamentally myself. I'm only speaking about myself. It's more about healing along the way.
Absolutely.
And it always stays a sort of work in progress,
Yes.
as we all are, and we evolve as human, but also when it comes to healing, especially when it comes to healing.
Yeah.
And so as much as I do appreciate the stance of let's talk about a perspective from healed, on the other hand, I'm very happy that a lot of people in my network are very advocating about mental health challenges.
For sure.
And because of that, we open up. So one of my best friends is Robin Imtorn. He's a Marine. He has multiple times been in Afghanistan. The last time it went terribly wrong, and it gave him a PTSD.
Wow, yes.
And then he started opening up about talking about mental health challenges within within the military, and especially within the elite group, the Marine Corps. And it wasn't let's say a table stake to talk about it. And what you see is that it opens doors for others to also allow yourself to talk about it. So as much as I understand the stance where you come from, saying, okay, talk about from a healed perspective, on the other thing, and it's more that I love to challenge also a little bit what you said there. Almost, why should we? Isn't it something we need to talk more about when it comes to personal storytelling?
I guess it depends on trauma has many forms, right? Big T trauma is maybe something that needs more time. And also I think it's the person. And so, of course, that's great that your colleague, your friend, he talks about that. But it's not that there's like well, I don't know. But what I'm saying is that the part of where the story comes from and me, I don't feel right now is the right time for that to be the story. You know, because the story of the company, well, like I talked about with this head injury, that in itself was incredibly traumatic.
Ooh, I can imagine.
You know, and then what happens is sometimes I share that at Career Story Nights, and then actually sometimes people say to me, so how did you heal it and what did you do? And actually there was a very particular trauma therapist that I did have to see about how to deal with that and what to do and how to like rewire the nervous system.
Phew.
Yeah, because when you do something to your brain, like it just basically knocks everything out. And sometimes, you know what, it's still kind of with me. Like I have a weird thing with like noises behind me. So I think that there's all of the different levels of trauma, and some things, yes, can be talked about now and can be processed in the out and open. And absolutely, it gives others the opportunity to move that as well. So it's sort of like a multiple healing that other people are talking to, and so everyone is learning from it, and I love that. But the really big stories inside of me, maybe just not quite yet. If
Let's say it's now June and it's the next storytelling career night.
Yes, yeah.
What would be your angle for that night if I was the facilitator and you were entering the room and tell your story? What would you choose right now in the place where you are in your life right now? What would be your angle?
Well, I could talk about that story because that story also, it's a pretty good story, and I have a friend, and every time I tell the story and he teases me and he always says, I swear to God, every time you tell that story, it's a bit different. I said, that's the whole point of storytelling, right?
It is.
It's the whole point, like it changes. And sometimes I think, was it a woman doctor, the last one I saw? Was it a man? And I'm like, no, actually it was a woman. I think sometimes I've talked about it as a man. So I could talk about that. I could talk about my leaving of the corporate world. I could talk about the ageism. I could talk about the sexism. I could talk about lots of isms in the workplace that I experienced or that I witnessed.
Is there a correlation between leaving the corporate world and the isms?
Yes.
Okay, then may I invite you, because then we can also circle back to who do you aspire to become? Well, I'm already in the right place. And but what would be the story? Because there is some depth in leaving the corporate. It's not a logical choice to leave such a high earning safety job as you had in the corporate life. So what made you decide about leaving the corporate life? And also, how does the isms correlate in that?
Well, let's see. So I think I said to you that I had this whole thing of I went to the US for 2 years and then and then like Nike is a company, like lots of big corporate companies constantly have reorganizations. I think we only have to hear about Meta. Didn't they just lay off like however many thousands of people overnight? That however many people got an email. Terrible. And so the same thing would happen at Nike. And at the time when I was in the US and I was working and living there, because of employment laws in the US, like I said, it's not quite, but one day you're here, the next day you're gone, because there is not, but not quite, but a little bit. Whereas in Europe, when companies want to make a reorganization, they have to go to the Works Council. They have to explain the business case. It's not just a matter of like night and day, 2 weeks. It's a months-long process to have the approval that all of these people are going to be out of work and what has to happen to them, where are they going to be absorbed. And Nike had already started to think about this reorganization. So, of course, the leaders are starting to think, oh my goodness, like we have all these people, what are we going to do? And where are we going to put all the people? And so I had met with a guy who was a VP of marketing, and him and I had coffee, and I thought I was going there for a career conversation about my next step, moving back to Europe. And he asked me, how much longer do you want to work for? And I remember like pulling a face like yours and saying, what? And looking at this guy. And this
Based on what?
Exactly. He said, you're in your mid-40s. How much longer Yes. How much longer do you want to work for? Anyway, I later found out he said it to lots of colleagues of mine too. That was his tactic. It was a tactic, I guess, to have you start thinking, oh my goodness, this is a company that doesn't really like people that are this age or whatever. I don't know. I don't know that for a fact, by the way. Anyway. And I remember being sat there and thinking, I think you're older than me. But anyway, and it was such a strange conversation. And I came out of that conversation feeling, I guess, a bit violated that this man had said this to me. And this is all pre-Me Too. But I knew that it was wrong. I knew that it wasn't correct the way that he had positioned it to me. And this was, like I said, maybe April, May, June time. And then fast forward 6 months. That's when everything was announced. We're making these reorganizations. And that's when they offered me your job is going away. Here's this other job. But it means you have to localize. You're going to get more money. But this is, And then I realized I connected the dots. Oh, that conversation was a bit of a precursor of me saying yes and accepting what you're offering to me, that you think that I should accept it. And that's why I think this thing kicked in of no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And then, of course, it's reported on in the press, because when companies lay off people, they have reorganizations, it's always reported. And so then you read all those articles of, Nike, laid off however many people, and then there's the topic of age and all of these things, all of these factors come into it. So that was that was the first time I think that I was very aware, realizing
very one aware. Day,
yeah, and sort of thinking, and almost like beating myself up and thinking, oh my God, how naive that I, and then on the other side thinking, but why wouldn't I think that I would have a long career, in my 40s, whatever.
I'm 52 now, so what is 40?
Exactly. Exactly. So that ageism for sure. And like I said, when I did my pitch at the end of the accelerator program, that was part of my pitch actually, and I put that in there. And to see people's reaction, and I didn't put it on my website or do anything like that. That was just part of this was the motivation, because this happens in the corporate world for sure.
Tying it all up to the central theme, reclaiming identity beyond achievement. Do you believe? Why do you believe in reclaiming? So is it reclaiming, or is it building identity beyond? Where do you believe for yourself? What resonates more? Building identity beyond achievement or reclaiming?
Well, yeah, because those are your words, huh? I think I talk about both of them when I look at I have a Notion file where I have like all my content and everything I've ever written, published, unpublished. And sometimes I read through that just to remind myself what I'm doing. And there is a reclaiming. There's also, I'm trying to think that at the beginning of this year, I put together a really lovely workshop for the Professional Women's Network, actually.
Yes.
And that was about career positioning and career identity, because people do get lost. We all do. I did.
Of course.
People do get lost in that, like the who am I? If everyone else is really successful, if everyone else is doing this, if everyone else has got the good job, then what am I, or who am I? Because my path hasn't followed that. So it is a reclaiming, but also I'm a little bit hesitant about the because then it gives the idea that something is missing, and it isn't missing, it might just be dormant.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Something is missing sometimes. I don't necessarily missing, because reclaiming can also be that it's still in you.
That's what I'm saying.
But along the way, we made decisions and we move further away from our core and our essence, and then that's for me the interpretation, or the interpretation of reclaiming is more that what's already inside of you. Getting closer to that again.
Yes, for sure. It's an integration. It's an integration, and it's really hard because I have so many stories. I have a friend who's a career coach, and he talks a lot about client stories, and I don't do that, and I'm not sure why, but I don't do that. But I do have, like, there's someone I'm working with right now, and it's really hard to not use all the time to like default to like examples of things. But there is a little bit of as I'm saying, it's not lost, it's just dormant. So it could be a reclaiming, or it could just be igniting it again, or it could be refreshing it, or it could be, just connecting it more. And when you do, my belief, and I see it with my clients that I work with, is that when we talk about all of their career and their positioning and the things that they've done and the life that they've had, and it's fascinating and brilliant and amazing and unique. And when I play that back to them, what they're telling me, I do see this visceral, that's who I am. And it's an acknowledgement of self of, actually, I'm going to give myself a little bit of a break, because I am actually way better than I've been giving myself credit for.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful role you have there, right?
Yeah, I love it. Really, really, really love it.
Well, we're heading towards the end of our conversation.
Okay.
I am really curious about this one, and it's a returning question for you, is who are you now? If somebody asks you point blank, who are you now, what would be your answer?
Who am I now? I'm not sure I would have a singular answer. I would say that I'm someone that's on a journey. I'm never fixed, as in it's never like, here I am, ta-da. It's a continuation, it's an evolution, it's a learning, it's a journey. And I know that might sound a little corny because of the name of your podcast, The Journeys of Empowerment, but I don't believe you're ever done. You're always leaning into like the next thing, the next layer, the next level, becoming, to quote Michelle Obama.
Yes.
It's just a constant becoming, and that I never want to be fixed, because when I think of fixed, I think of not growing. And I don't want to not growing and not evolving.
When people ask me the question,
yes,
sometimes for me the answer is very simple. I'm an infinite student.
A what student?
An infinite student.
Yeah, there you go. That's the similar.
Life.
Yeah, that's
love.
Yeah,
And learning.
Yeah, for sure.
And the world is the world is my university. And I believe that we can learn. The most important part and element of why we're here is learning to love, to give, to grow, to connect.
For sure.
And
for sure, absolutely. When you click up on a much, much bigger picture and take yourself and remove yourself out of this situation and out of these constructs and out of this, you sort of get to the point of what is the meaning of humanity. And it is all of that. And it is all of those qualities. And then we function within this.
In the system and so forth, and society. And when people are listening to our conversation, when would you love them to feel drawn into that career storytelling evening? What is the sort of the mindset at that moment, the ideal sort of mindset at that moment, which is very good to be there as either as audience or, and maybe then future, how do you call them?
Storytellers.
Future storytellers, or the seed get planted while attending, and then you are becoming one of the storytellers. So what is the sort of crossroad you believe? Is there a sort of common denominator about that? A sort of crossroad which you think in their lives would be interesting to come and visit that evening?
It's interesting for sure, and some people join and love it and are curious and want to share their story, and those people I do follow up with. I do encourage them, because what sparked that curiosity, I don't want for them to lose it.
Is there sort of common denominator where people are looking for?
So sometimes I'm thinking of it's a really good question, and maybe I need to do a little bit more research on that. Sometimes what I will say is sometimes people mistaken it and think that it's like a pitch night, and it's absolutely not that. It's actually quite anti-pitch. It's people that have had an experience that has shaped them, and they are almost humbled by it. And I'm like thinking of lots of different stories are pinging in my head, because every single story has been incredible for all different reasons. But I think it's that there's like stories of like love and loss and becoming and grief and moving and leaving and breaking up and choosing self or not choosing self. And I think that all the people that wanted to share their story, there has been some sort of catalyst. There has been some moment that has made them think, and this is worth sharing because I know what it did for me.
We will for sure share the link to the upcoming event in the show notes. And if people are curious about you, I guess we can share your LinkedIn profile also in the show notes. Well, Lisa, for now, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
And I love what you're doing.
Oh,
because
thank you.
I believe in the power of storytelling.
For sure you do.
I believe also, I love campfires also.
Yes.
Campfire conversations.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful because it does something with us.
Exactly.
Right? It's magic. You see
Exactly.
the eyes twinkling.
Yes.
You see the connection.
Yes.
And you see also we come in as an individual. And what I often see happening is that we leave as a sort of collective brain with neurons that fire wire, but also across each other's brain. And it's a sort of collective brain. We leave with a sort of collective brain, a sort of collective ID of humanism, of humanity, or whatever. But
I mean, that is
beautiful.
That is humanity, and that's a whole other conversation about collective humanity, collective consciousness.
Let's keep that for maybe a
Yes.
future episode. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for spending this time with us. Perhaps something from this conversation is still settling. A perspective, a feeling, or a question that arrived without asking permission. That's often how meaningful change begins. Stories have a way of traveling beyond the moment they are told, finding their way into conversations, decisions, and chapters still unfolding. If someone comes to mind whose path feels emotion, pass this episode on. And if the desire for more clarity, direction, and alignment has been quietly growing in the background, there's a space called the Clarity Intensify track, an open door for those moments when reflection starts asking to become movement. Until next time, take this with you gently and see what stays with you.